Progress.
Got about 15 who've signed up. Ian, can I set you as the co-host? Just in case someone's trying to join in and I don't see them while I'm presenting. Ian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing my screen right now. My name is Nyoka Lewis, and I'm with, sorry, just let me stop there. I'm Nyoka Lewis from EALING and Hounslow CVS, the Funding and Group Development Officer for the EALING Borough. And I have my colleague Ian Elliott, who is supporting the Hounslow Borough in funding and group development. We have Frank from Space Hive, who has joined us today. And I'd like to welcome everybody on to the session today. Thank you for joining us and spending this next 1 hour with us. I begin by sharing a short presentation that I've made. I won't go into too many details. The reason being is Frank would give you a lowdown on it. So let me quickly run through what I have for you. This is a Future Ealing crowdfunding program. A few housekeeping rules.
What we might do.
That's what it is. If you wish to speak, do raise your hands or put your microphone on mute unless you're speaking to avoid any background sound. It's just a 1 hour session, so we won't have a break in between. We will have question answers at the end of the session or in between if Frank is open to questions then. So we begin with a short presentation from me, followed by a presentation by Frank from Space Hive, followed by question and answers. A little about the crowdfunding program. It's a program which is supported by the EALING Council, and it provides match-funded financial support to community-led ideas that will help recovery of neighborhoods and groups and build prosperous. Basically, we're trying to build up the community after the pandemic. There's £100,000 on offer with a maximum of 10,000 for crowdfunding projects. This is up to 50% of your campaign target. I will be sharing these slides with you. I won't go through the details of reading the points in there because you would have the information coming to you. The deadline for this funding round is the 22nd of September. That's for the project. The steps to get involved, I'll leave this to Frank to get into. I think his presentation would cover this bit, but there are a couple of steps that you would need to go through. The expression of interest, the project page and pitch, and your deadline of the 22nd of September is to get that page and pitch ready there. Your verification, crowdfunding, pledge, and hit your target and deliver your project will come post that. The eligibility criteria, I've put in a link which will come to you. You can read more about it, but a few points that I'd like to highlight here is new groups are welcomed, fresh ideas for future EALING. A lot of small groups who do not get the funding from bigger or get stuck because they don't have the right structure and things like that by bigger funders. They they can apply here. Community groups, mutual aids, or volunteering networks, charity, tenants or resident association, a town team or social enterprise, or an individual representing a wider interest group, so long as the location you're in is the Ealing Borough, and you're supporting the residents of Ealing. You don't need to be a constituted group, but you need to be a group that has a bank account, a group bank account, because Ealing Council will not give your funds into your personal account. The projects that they're supporting is bringing people together to achieve your potential, improving your public spaces, creating community hubs, to reanimate your high street, help reduce the carbon footprint of the borough, to promote happiness, confidence, health. What they won't be funding, projects that are not in the borough, projects proposed not by individuals or groups who are representative of the local area. So the first 2 points are closely related. Ideas that would be equally applicable anywhere, such as Christmas lights, or those that are not place or community-based, existing programs or local services, such as those under pressure from constraint to public spending, businesses as usual activity. For example, you have to plug any kind of a day-to-day revenue expense, projects without a clear plan or cost in place, projects that promote particular faith or political party. So your business idea that is not a business, any idea that does not have a clear evidence of how it's going to benefit the local people. So basically, they're not going to be funding all these kind of projects. There are, I will not go into details of the funding decision-making criteria. I have a whole, they have a whole explanation of this. I've put it down as 4 points as identified by them. One is the project description will get 40%. So your idea needs to be really solid. Your project plan and delivery would get 20% weightage. What are your long-term benefits would be another 20%. And the strength of support, does the community support your project? And the best way to do that, and ideas, how to get, how to well present these is in the documents that I would share post this session as session notes. So I won't waste time reading this, because I'd like to spend more time, listening to Frank and what he has to say about the project. And that's it from me. Any questions on those few slides? Brilliant. I have some chat. Yeah. I'd like you to put your name and organization contact details in the chat, so we could connect with you, or even put it under your name, just your name at the bottom, for easy communication. I'd like to pass it on to Frank whenever you're ready to let us know more about the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nilka. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys now, and I'll take you through my part of today's session. So thanks everyone for coming along to today's session, specifically on the Future Ealing crowdfunding program, the Future Ealing Fund. My name is Frank Kibble. I work for the crowdfunding platform Space Hive. We are a crowdfunding platform for locally led community projects, and we partner with a number of organizations across the country, usually local authorities, to deliver local crowdfunding programs like the Future Ealing crowdfunding program. And these programs are designed to encourage locally led ideas to come forward, launch a crowdfunding campaign, and pitch for funding that's been made available by, in this case, Ealing Council. So just to take you through a bit of a a bit of an agenda for what I'm going to talk you through today. I'm just going to expand a little bit upon the crowdfunding platform and crowdfunding on Spacehive and what it's all about. Then I'll touch more upon the Future Ealing Fund that Nyoka has introduced us to. Then I'll take you through the timeline for the autumn funding round, which is what we're at the beginning of now, and then through the support available and the next steps to get involved with the Future Ealing crowdfunding program. So yeah, as I just mentioned, Spacehive is a crowdfunding platform for locally led ideas that bring local places to life, that involve the community and ultimately bring benefits to the community. Anyone with an idea for their local area, perhaps latching onto a local challenge or a local opportunity, can put a project up on the Spacehive platform, launch a crowdfunding campaign, and start to get local people to chip in a few quid to make that project happen. As I mentioned, there are various different pots of funding available on the Spacehive platform that you can tap into to help you achieve your crowdfunding goal. And just to give you a little bit of an introduction into the type of projects we see on the platform, I've got a short clip that I'd like to play you now, which gives you a sense of that wide variety of community projects that we see on the platform.
Crowdfunding is when people come together to collectively fund something that they believe in. This sense of people working together to make things happen is particularly important for community projects. Ideas that grow out of genuine neighbourhood need and are able to showcase support from lots of different people are a great fit for crowdfunding campaigns. If you think about the areas of our cities, towns and villages that we really cherish, they're places which have character. They reflect local culture. There have been projects designed as a direct response to COVID, funding new equipment and facilities to bring people together in a safe, socially distanced way. We see lots of public art which brightens up high streets with murals, sculpture and pop-up galleries. Festivals, events and enterprising schemes such as teenage markets and community cafes have seen great success. Projects have created new community spaces out of disused buildings and test longer-term ideas making use of meanwhile space. We also have projects that improve, repair, restore existing community facilities. Innovative health and well-being projects focusing on mental and physical health are really important, from sensory gardens to daily mile walking tracks. Vital environmental projects helping our communities to live sustainably and combat the climate crisis alongside providing and improving neighbourhood spaces for education and sport are just some examples of what can be achieved crowdfunding on Spacehive. There are some important factors to help you decide if your idea is eligible for the platform. It must be a project in its own right. Spacehive is not suited to general charitable giving for a particular cause or running costs for an already established service. It's about projects that need a specific amount of money to achieve a clear goal. Projects need to provide broad community benefit and must be welcoming to a wide range of people. Campaigns for starting new commercial businesses are not a good fit. Whether this is your first time creating a project or you're a seasoned community organiser, Spacehive makes it easy for you to improve your local area. If you create a page for your project idea, it will be matched to funds from councils, foundations and companies that might want to help. To date, we have supported over 1,500 community-led projects to raise over £19 million.
So hopefully through that clip, you've got a sense of that wide range of projects that can be crowdfunded on the Spacehive platform, and hopefully taking a little bit of inspiration about what's possible by fundraising through this kind of mechanism. And if you've got a project, I'll be all ears a bit later on in the session, an idea for a project, I'll be all ears later on in the session to hear about it. And perhaps think about how it can work for crowdfunding. And obviously, you probably come along today to just find out about how you can get your project fully funded. But I just wanted to take you through a few of the other benefits of crowdfunding that come alongside, obviously, raising the funds to deliver your idea. So crowdfunding offers you a way of developing new skills. it's true that over half of people who come to the Space Hive platform and launch a crowdfunding campaign have never done anything like this before. They've never done civic engagement before. They've never, done crowdfunding and and raising funds through this method before. And you kind of develop all these skills that you didn't really potentially, have before along the way. So crowdfunding requires you to kind of go out, do that community engagement piece, do that engagement, consultation, and spreading the word with local people to chip into your fundraising campaign. It also requires you potentially to look at social media. Some groups haven't done create a social media profile up until running a crowdfunding campaign. But when you're doing that kind of marketing of your idea, social media can be a real tool. And also there's kind of project management skills that come with running a crowdfunding campaign. You've got to set up a budget for your project. You've got to, navigate council bureaucracy potentially to get permission for your project. All of that comes under the guise of project management. These are all new soft skills that you can actually take from your crowdfunding campaign and apply in future projects, future activities for your organization. Secondly, crowdfunding offers a way of creating new connections. You might be sitting there today thinking, oh, blimey, I'm the only person who's passionate about my project, or, we're really such a small team delivering what we do. And how on earth can we kind of expand upon it and scale up the project to reach more people? Well, when you're running a crowdfunding campaign, as I say, you're getting out there in the local area, you're telling people about your idea, getting people excited. And by virtue of that engagement, you do forge these connections. You might meet someone just as passionate as you are about your idea, someone potentially you can recruit to your team and help you deliver an even stronger project. Not just the project that you're crowdfunding, but also, as I say, projects into the future and services you'll be delivering. And thirdly, crowdfunding offers you a way of raising the profile of your organization. So again, if you're, a relatively small organization, perhaps a new one in your corner of Ealing, and you're looking to expand or just get a bit more known than you kind of are, crowdfunding, as I say, when you're doing that kind of marketing exercise in the local area, brings you and your organization to people's to the front of people's minds. If you can deliver a fantastic project, if you can engage the community, and you can take people with you on a journey, you'll stay in the forefront of people's minds, and then you'll be able to kind of go from strength to strength and potentially be able to deliver even more meaningful and impactful projects into the future. So those are some of the benefits of crowdfunding that come alongside, obviously, the fantastic way of raising the cash to deliver your project. And as Nyoka mentioned earlier, our partnership with the London Borough of Ealing is around the Future Ealing crowdfunding program, which is a dedicated local crowdfunding program that we've devised with the council, as I say, to encourage locally led projects to come forward, pitch for funding, and deliver impactful projects that shape the place and action across the borough. As part of this program, we've set up a website that you can log on to there. The address is at the bottom of the page. And this is the Future Ealing crowdfunding portal. It's where you can find out everything about the program, from the dates around the autumn funding round that I'll mention in just a moment, to the projects that have been previously funded through the program, and also the funds and support available, and events much like this one that we'll be hosting as part of the program. And Nyoka's touched upon it already, but I just wanted to take you through the Future Ealing Fund in a little bit more detail. So as we know, we've got a £100,000 fund available, made available by the council, with a £10,000 maximum pledge to individual crowdfunding campaigns that are on the Space Hive platform. And this is specifically a capital fund. Ealing Council can pledge to capital cost items within your project budget. They aren't able to pledge to revenue cost items, but I'll come on to that in a moment. There are other funding options available for you to supplement your crowdfunding campaign. If your I guess your project budget is weighted towards capital cost items. But just to run through the kind of criteria and the outcomes of the fund that the council want to see. They want to support locally led proposals which bring people together to achieve their potential, improve public spaces, create community hubs and reanimate high streets, help reduce the borough's carbon footprint and promote happiness, confidence and health. So it's all about transforming spaces. It's all about bringing local places to life, bringing the community together. I would really encourage you to kind of take note of these outcomes of the fund, because when you complete your pitch to the Future Ealing Fund, you'll be required to address all of those outcomes and criteria and show how your project aligns with the priorities. So it is a requirement on the Space Hive platform for your pitch to be submitted by a constituted group. But as it says at the bottom there, you don't need to be, if you've got an idea as an individual, you can partner with a local group that you're potentially a part of or have links to, you can submit the pitch that way. But as was mentioned earlier, the council cannot transfer funds, excuse me, into a personal bank account, pardon me. And if you've got any more questions about the fund specific to your project, the best people to ask are the council itself. Evelyn Gloyn runs the Future Ealing crowdfunding program from the council side, and you can reach her and her team via dosomethinggood@ealing.gov.uk. And as I mentioned, we're just at the start of the autumn funding round of the Future Ealing crowdfunding program. There are 2 funding rounds a year that we run, one in the spring and one in the autumn. And although, it seems like the middle of summer still, hopefully, we will be launching the crowdfunding campaigns will be launching in the autumn time, which is why it's badged up as the autumn funding round. And this funding round splits into roughly 4 main phases, of which we're now in the preparation and pitch phase. Now it's all about settling upon your idea, honing that idea, getting all of the costs and permissions ready for that project, and submitting your pitch to the fund on the Space Hive platform before the 22nd of September, which is the deadline to get involved in the Future Ealing Fund. Now, just to take you through what that pitch kind of looks like, there are 2 elements to the whole kind of application when you upload your project onto the Space Hive platform. Once you've settled upon your idea, as I say, it's time to put together your project page, which is almost like the public-facing shop window for your project. It's what local people are going to land on, perhaps when they click on a link or when they see your URL on a flyer, and you build your project page on the Space Hive platform by going through section by section, like you can see on your screen right now. You add details of your idea, the location of your project, expected impact and the milestones to deliver it, videos and images to bring it to life and get people excited, but also 2 really crucial aspects that I've just touched upon, which are costs and permissions. Now, these are the kind of nuts and bolts that hold your project together. Permission to deliver your project in a given location, which is always required. You need to upload that permission from the landowner in the section you can see in front of you on your screen, and also the costs, which is the budget for your project. It's where you upload the items that you'll need to purchase in order to deliver your project, and they need to be evidenced with quotes from suppliers, just to ensure that there's that kind of robust planning that goes behind your project page. And when you've completed all of those sections on the Space Hive platform, you'll see that it reflects a really nice, as I say, shop window that is a place to draw people to and get people excited. You can encourage them to like and comment on your project even before you've started asking for funding, and that will stand you in a really good stead after the 22nd of September when you launch your crowdfunding campaign. Now, just to take you through a few of these elements of costs and permissions, which, as I mentioned, are so important and need to be added to your project before you launch your campaign. The council have made available a lot of resources and contact information for finding out about land ownership, which, as I say, needs to be added to your project before you can launch a crowdfunding campaign. So if you need to find out whose land your project is going to be situated on, there is a resource there and maps that you can look at at a later date. These links will all be shared with you in the follow-up email that will come tomorrow, probably, when the session's over. And then, of course, you know, in the event that your project requires planning permission, you can speak to the council as well. There's the Planning and Building Control Authority, and in that case as well, if your project does require planning permission, you'll be required to kind of upload evidence that you've got that before you can launch your crowdfunding campaign. Not only that, the council and the CBS have made more support and resources available for you as you kind of develop your project and get ready for crowdfunding. So there's a community event calendar run by the EALING CBS and volunteering support. There's also support available for safeguarding and GDPR. Now, if your project, you know, potentially requires a safeguarding policy in place, you'll have to upload that as part of your pitch. And if you don't have that in place, as I say, there's support available there, as well as support on insurance, DBS checks, and so on. These are all elements that, if applicable to your project, you'll need to upload because it forms part of the verification process that I'll touch upon in just a second. And as I mentioned, there are other funding opportunities available that can contribute to your crowdfunding campaign. And the Freshwater Foundation are working locally within the borough and can provide grants to local projects, as well as advice and training to help people set up those projects. And as I've already shared it all with you, the email address to get in contact with Evelyn Gloyn and her team at EALING Council is dosomethinggood@ealing.gov.uk. There's also plenty of resources available through the EALING Adult Learning section. Again, that can help you with digital skills, photography, writing a bid, communication skills, and other kind of more governance-oriented aspects of delivering a project. And you can get in touch with them via adultlearning@ealing.gov.uk. Now, as I say, all of that kind of governance and project development is really important when it comes to the next phase of the autumn funding round, which is the verification phase. Now, verification is a unique part of the SpaceHive platform. It's when projects are checked to ensure that they are deliverable, to ensure that they're viable, so that when you do launch your crowdfunding campaign, you're confident that A, you can go out there and ask people to chip in, and B, that you're going to be actually able to deliver your project once you are fully funded. And that not only gives you confidence, it gives your backers confidence that it's got kind of the stamp of approval from a specialist team, but also the council. It's really important for them that, you know, because they're going to be potentially pledging public money to your project, that there is this oversight of the deliverability of your project. And the council, you know, really, you know, it places a lot of importance on this verification process. So it's something you need to prepare for when you're developing your projects. And there are a few tips that I'd like to share with you now that just will ensure that you have a smooth verification process. Firstly, make sure your costs match the description on your project page. You know, if there's a disparity there, it might just, you know, that it just gets a bit confusing for people who are landing on your page. And please do supply cost evidence and quotes for those items, as I say, so that the verifiers can see that, you know, that you've robustly kind of put together this project. Again, permission from the landowner is always required. You'll need to upload maybe an email or a letter or something in writing, really, just to you know, confirm that you have permission to deliver your project in a given space. And then, as I touched upon just a moment ago, if your project requires public liability insurance or a safeguarding policy, you'll need to upload them as part of your pitch too. You know, as I say, it might not be applicable to your idea. It's very much dependent on what you're going to be pitching for. And I would say, just with verification, it may sound like a little bit daunting perhaps, but it really is there, as I say, to strengthen your confidence going into a crowdfunding campaign. And if the verifiers need to see a little bit more evidence in order to verify your project, they'll give you time to go away, find that evidence and resubmit it. It isn't a kind of pass or fail kind of process. You know, there's a kind of always a bit of back and forth for the most part. Now, once verification is over, it's time for the third phase of the autumn funding round, which is probably why you turned up today. It's the crowdfunding phase. It's when you go out there, you start engaging local people, chipping in asking people to chip in, and campaigns are likely to launch in late September after your projects are verified. Then around late October time, the council will be assessing your pitches to the fund. It may just be into November to allow you know, people to progress through verification after the 22nd of September deadline. So I'll update you on when that council assessment is going to be at a later date. And then hopefully you'll be hitting your crowdfunding targets around December time, or perhaps just into the start of 2022, at which point you'll receive the funds to deliver your project. And a crowdfunding campaign, sorry, looks something like this. If you were to kind of visualize it on a whiteboard that we can see here. Once you launch your crowdfunding campaign, the idea behind it is to get lots of pledges on the board really quickly, so you can build momentum and demonstrate that you've got a crowd of people behind you who want to see the project happen. Now, these pledges don't need to be you know, of much. £2, £5 is what's recommended. But what it really is important, as I say, is the quantity of those pledges, so that you know, you can start to get the ball rolling and demonstrate that you have local buy-in for your project idea, because that will form part of the assessment that Ealing Council make of your pitch to the fund. They'll look to see that you know, local people want to see your project happen, and if they can see that, you know, you've got, I'm not going to put a number on it, but if they can see you've got a crowd of backers who have already chipped in, that constitutes that local buy-in. So really important. It makes up part of the assessment, as we heard earlier from Yoka. And so really work hard in the first couple of weeks of your campaign to get that crowd to back you. Now, of course, the other side of the assessment is how well your pitch has addressed, you know, the funding criteria, how well your project is aligned with the outcomes of the fund. So it's also really important to write a really strong pitch. And hopefully those two elements of the assessment will come together and you'll receive a nice juicy pledge to your crowdfunding campaign. After which it's all about using that pledges to impress the wider community, still getting it in those smaller pledges from local people, but also perhaps tapping into corporate funds, other grants that are available locally, such as the Freshwater Foundation, but also local businesses and other you know, funding bids and potentially coming through at that point before you hit your crowdfunding target around December time. And that kind of may sound rather simple when I kind of explain it like that, but it really does require you to have a plan in order for you to execute your crowdfunding campaign in the manner I've described. And we encourage you to have a think about this plan before you launch your campaign. We advise that you start off by asking people who are most likely to back your crowdfunding campaign. And in the first couple of weeks, try to kind of pick all of those low-hanging fruit pledges that are out there from you and your project team, friends and family, colleagues and members of your organization, as well as neighbors, people who care about what's happening in their local area. If you can get a decent number of those groups to chip in, you'll definitely have a bit of a crowd backing you, hopefully by week 4 of your crowdfunding campaign, which is when the partner Ealing Council is going to hopefully pledge to your campaign, after which you kind of impress your wider community, as I say, with that stamp of approval from the council. So people on social media, perhaps, local businesses, and other grants that are available, as I just mentioned. So you're ending kind of with the people or the pledges that are less likely to come through, but that could potentially be more galvanizing to your crowdfunding campaign. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And as I say, we'll work with you to develop a really strong campaign plan, so you're confident of being able to hit your crowdfunding target. Now, the fourth phase of the the autumn funding round is, of course, you guys doing what you do best, which is to go away and deliver your projects and make a real impact in your local area. That is likely to be in January of next year, or perhaps in the springtime. Just worth noting that you'll receive the funds from your campaign at the conclusion of it. Projects are delivered after crowdfunding is over. If your timeline is just slightly different to what you can see on the screen there, just give us a shout, and we'll help you come up. We'll come up with a solution that ensures that you can deliver your project on time. A few things to know, hopefully, before we hop into some Q&As. There is a 5% platform fee associated with the SpaceEye platform. That's only taken if your campaign is successful. And that 5% fee is calculated based on the costs that you upload to your project. There are also transaction fees, as there are with all online payments, that are calculated automatically by the SpaceEye platform too. So your overall crowdfunding target will be slightly higher than the costs associated with your project, if that makes sense. And SpaceEye does have an all or nothing funding model, which means that you do have to hit your target in order to receive the funds that you've raised. Now, this is in place. It's really important to ensure that projects are delivered in full. Again, this is a real, really important because public money is going to be pledged to the campaigns, not only the council, but also your backers will want to see that what they've chipped into is actually going to get delivered. And what that does, it shouldn't be kind of viewed with trepidation. It is a real asset to your campaign because it creates a sense of urgency. People know that that you do have to hit your target. They'll be more motivated to chip in, and that actually means that you can raise more funds faster. And as part of I've already mentioned, support that's available through the council and through the CVS, but we are also on hand to help you develop your projects. We are pretty hands-on as a crowdfunding platform. We take a real interest in the pitches that you're putting together, and we're here with you kind of every step of the way as you develop your projects and then launch a great crowdfunding campaign. The SpaceEye Help Centre provides step-by-step guides and videos and articles that can help you develop your projects. And we're also available via live chat, workshops, other project surgeries and clinics to connect you with our team. We do also have a dedicated project success team who are with you every step of the way when you're crowdfunding to ensure that you're confident of hitting your crowdfunding target. And I also wanted to mention, we heard it in the video earlier, that there have been nearly 2,000 successful crowdfunding projects on the SpaceEye platform across the UK. And it's very likely that we've seen a project like yours before. We should be able to kind of link you in with previously successful project creators, to swap ideas, share experiences, and hopefully get a bit of inspiration and confidence as you approach your own campaigns. And across those nearly 2,000 successful creators, we've picked up a few top tips along the way that I'd just like to share with you briefly before I run through the next steps. The first one, pretty simple, but one that I'm sure I've impressed upon you already today, which is get your quotes and permissions ready early. It's really important, as I say, to get ahead of this so you aren't kind of rushing before the 22nd of September deadline and to get those kind of nuts and bolts together when you should really be planning for your crowdfunding campaign. My advice is to really start today with engaging suppliers, engaging landlords, and landowners to get the costs and permissions ready. Secondly, build a crowd before you crowdfund. As I've also tried to impress upon you today, your kind of community engagement or your kind of campaign plan shouldn't just start from scratch when you launch your crowdfunding campaign. You should really be thinking about this before you launch. And a way you can get ahead of this is by getting, spreading the word and telling people about your idea before you even start asking for funding. We like to use this really kind of pithy quote to describe that kind of task, which is build a crowd before you crowdfund. Get people, excited about your idea, almost clamoring for to be able to pledge to your campaign before you've even started the campaign, and that will really stand you in good stead for when you launch a campaign and you're building that momentum. Thirdly, delegate campaign tasks to your team. We would really recommend that you have a team of maybe 2 or 3 people who can work on this campaign together. And that's to ensure, obviously, that you kind of share a bit of the responsibility. It shouldn't really fall to one person for the project to live or die. But also you can tap into different skill sets that people will have, perhaps in social media, perhaps in bid writing, perhaps in, that kind of a good old fashioned bucket shaking. And all of these skill sets can come together to ensure that you have a successful crowdfunding campaign. And then fourthly, update. There's a really neat little tool on the SpaceHive platform that allows you to send an email to all of your backers in one fell swoop. And this is really important because crowdfunding shouldn't be lonely. You're taking people on a journey because they've chipped in, they've invested in your project and you, I suppose, both financially and also sentimentally. And when they've kind of chipped in and done that investment, I suppose, they're interested in the project coming to fruition. And if you can close that loop of communication, keep people engaged via the update tool by drip feeding news, events, features in local press, etc. It'll mean that those people are engaged beyond the crowdfunding campaign into the delivery of your project and then into the future. So that can be really important, as I say, for creating those new connections and building the profile of your organization. And just to touch upon quickly the next steps to be involved in this autumn funding round, please do complete the expression of interest form to surface your project idea, if you have one, to us, and then we can continue the conversation about developing your idea. That expression of interest form will go out in the follow-up email. Then the next step is to create your project page on the SpaceHive platform, that public-facing shop window for your idea, and then to complete the pitch to the fund, which is also on the SpaceHive platform by the 22nd of September, which is the deadline for the autumn funding round. Now, just to touch upon how how you can get in touch with us. We're available via support@spacehive.com, and there'll be, as I mentioned earlier, so many more outlets of support available throughout this autumn funding round. EALING Council and Evelyn Gloyn and her team are available via do-something-good@ealing.gov.uk, and you can tweet us using the hashtag Future Ealing. Now that's all from me. Nyoka, I think you wanted to open it up for questions and answers. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Frank. That was brilliant and very clear. Look forward to having these slides from you and any other information that you'd like to share with me, so I could, pass it on as session notes along with some of the information that I have. I leave this. I do believe there is a note on the chat where Sheila mentioned that she's looking at networking. So if anyone wants to copy the chat, or people who've signed in there are those little 3 dots at the bottom. If you click on it, you can download the chat. I seen Margaret had a hand up, or any questions If it's not Margaret, we go to Simone.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
me.
yes. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out a bit more about the 5%, because it seems quite a lot to me. And then also you said that if you didn't meet your target, you wouldn't be able to do your project or get the money. So what happens to that money?
So just on the 5%, so there are fees associated with all crowdfunding platforms online, and that 5% goes towards, on the Speyside platform, goes towards the maintenance of the platform, and also the verification process, which, as I say, is kind of integral to the awarding of public money to the campaigns. As I say, you know, we never had a situation where a campaign reaches perhaps 95% funded and then doesn't get to that fully funded on account of that 5%. Usually at that stage of the campaign, there's so much momentum behind it, because people are chipping in. It's you know, the wider community are really engaged, and that kind of takes you home. I guess I hope that kind of gives you a bit of more of a sense of what that would go, that 5% would go towards. And then on the all or nothing funding model, yes, yeah, that's correct. You do have to hit your target in order to receive the funds. As I say, it's really important that projects are delivered in full. Now, when there isn't any, if you weren't in any, well, I guess in the unlikely event, I suppose, if you didn't reach your crowdfunding target, there wouldn't be it wouldn't be incumbent upon you to refund people or anything like that, because when someone makes a pledge to your campaign, it isn't a direct donation to you at that point. They're just setting up, they're in effect, I guess, pledging to give you that £5, that £10, if you hit your crowdfunding target. So it's actually a kind of a pre-approved payment that's being set up, and it'll once you hit your crowdfunding target, that will trigger the collection of those pledges. So that's why you'll receive the funds at the end of your crowdfunding campaign, so you can then go and deliver your project. Does that answer your question there, Margaret?
Sort of. I'll listen for other people.
Okay. Simone, would you like to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, hi, morning. Mine's kind of two questions as well. So it's, how often does the funding streams come around? Because you keep saying the autumn one. Mm-hmm. How long is this running for? And how soon after, what if you're not ready to start in January? Like, how soon after receiving the funds do you have to then use them?
So the first one, Simone, we run 2 funding rounds a year, one in the spring and one in the autumn. If this 22nd of September deadline is just going to be a little bit too soon, because I suppose it's less than 2 months now, and it takes a while to develop projects and pitches, we'll be launching the spring funding round. We usually start ramping up just before Christmas, yeah. With workshops in late January time, early February, and then a deadline in March. So campaigns will be launching thereafter, with funds, with kind of them ending around June time, and then projects being delivered. If you're not ready to deliver your project in January, if you need to wait for some more time, that's absolutely fine. There isn't a kind of hard and fast rule about window about when you need to deliver your project. What I would say is most projects are delivered within a year or 18 months of a campaign coming to a close.
Fabulous. Great. Thank you.
Any more questions for Frank? Okay. The presentation was pretty clear, and with all that information out there, I think Mark has a question for you, Frank. Go ahead, Mark. You have to unmute yourself.
Hello, Frank. Yes, this really follows on from the question that Simone was raising. We're both here representing the EALING Care Co-op. The question that I wish to address is that we are currently in the throes of hopefully generating a further £10,000 investment by the council in our project. And this crowdfunding is obviously, from what's being said, also funded by the council. And so therefore, it seems to me that possibly we wouldn't be able to apply for both, since if we, presuming that we receive the 10K that is being proposed at the moment by the council, that they would be thinking that this is possibly a duplication of the support that they're already offering to us. Can you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I guess the starting point, Mark, is the budget of your project. And if that's going to be, you know, upwards of £10,000 or £20,000, you know, you'll obviously need to find a shortfall, and crowdfunding can offer you that way of addressing that shortfall. I'd need to honestly just go away and check with the council about how those potential different funding streams might interact. You know, in times gone by, I think, you know, definitely in other partnerships that we've run in with different local authorities, there have been different funding streams from the same council feeding into the one crowdfunding campaign. But it's very much, I guess, to the discretion of the grant givers. So if I can, you know, just touch base with yourself and Simone afterwards, I'll check that for you.
Sure, thank you.
Simone, you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. If we wanted to raise, say, 40,000, would we be limited on this hive to only raise 10 so that they can then crowd match it with another 10?
No, as I say, the budget is really the starting point for your project. What I would just caution, I suppose, is you know, setting too high a target with too much of a shortfall to address. You've got to be confident ultimately that you'll hit your target through crowdfunding. There are other funding streams available on the Space Hive platform. For example, we do work with the Mayor of London on a yearly programme where there is additional funding available for projects. But it's very much dependent on, I guess, I'd like to find out a little bit more about your idea and how that would fit in with other funding streams. So again, I think if I can pick it up with you, Simone and Mark, separately, that would be great.
Great, thank you.
Frank, I have a question for you, just to clarify for the groups here. The notes or the guidance notes for the fund states that it's 50% of the match funded, would be match funded up to a max of 10,000, right? So if I were to look at a project that would cost me around £30,000 in all, so I would look at raising crowdfunding for 20,000. Would that be the amount that I'd look for support via the crowdfunding, and expect that would be matched by the council by 10,000, you know, then giving me that amount of 30,000?
So yeah, you're sort of correct. Okay. So again, the starting point for setting up a crowdfunding campaign is the budget that you'll need, budget of cost items that you'll need to deliver your project. So if your project totaled £30,000, you'd set up a crowdfunding campaign. It would come to around £30,000. That would be your target. Then, as I say, roughly 4 weeks into your crowdfunding campaign, your assessment would come by the council. And if you were to, be successful with your pitch, you'd receive potentially up to £10,000. It's very much dependent on a number of things. What cost items you'd be going for. They have to be capital, but also, Ealing Council have their own assessment processes. the maximum pledge, as I say, you can get is £10,000 or 50% of your overall costs. So for £30,000 as a target, the maximum pledge would be £10,000. If your overall target was £8,000, the maximum pledge would be £4,000. So it's just, but as I say, it maxes out at 10. So, you know, above 20, it'll still be 10.
So you would put in the total cost amount is the amount that you would be pledging for.
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted that clarified. I think I have a question from Gurana. She said she has a question, and then we'd take on Margaret's question.
Hi. This is actually my first time on one of these chats. I wanted to find out, I'm starting a project actually here in Acton, where it's probably supposed to be like a pilot project, but we want to take it to like other councils. So with regards to when it comes to costs and that, would you also cover the costs? Would it also include things like platforms that we've set up online and all that? Can we claim for that? Because if it's like actually, even though physically it's a development project and employability happening here, the training, but the actual base of how it all operates will be an online system. Would it cover the cost of that also running?
There's a couple of things to just be aware of here. If you've already set up these platforms, it wouldn't be possible to kind of retrospectively crowdfund for them. You have the crowdfunding campaign is for projects that are going to be delivered in the future. You can't kind of subsidize outgoings that have already been made. Secondly, when it comes to crowdfunding websites, it's a little bit tricky in terms of eligibility on the Space Hive platform. You know, projects are supposed to be taking place in a public space or not necessarily a public space, but a space that's accessible by the community in a local area. And then also just to mention, Ealing Council can only pledge to capital cost items. So revenue costs that might be associated with kind of web maintenance and so on, or salaries for development time wouldn't be eligible. But that, you know, is, as I say, it's very much dependent on the type of project that you're going to be putting together. So I'd really invite everyone to submit the expression of interest form, and then we can kind of get into more of the detail about how your projects could work through this program.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just for example, is I've set up the platform, but I've got no members. It's just ready to operate, like it's just starting, and that will be used to actually do the physical training at Acton Community Garden Centre. It's all like joined together, but the actual platform and everything on it is set up, but it hasn't been used yet. So that's what I mean is like, if like say a membership or the running platform cost, and it's only used for the community project to say £100 a month, can I put that in towards the cost, for example, of the capital?
I should expect so. Again, I would need to know a little bit more about the project before I can say for sure. But as I say, that there are a couple of things to just be aware of in terms of what Ealing Council can and can't fund, and also the eligibility of the Space Hive platform.
Okay, all right.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Frank and Gurana. Margaret, do you still have a question? Just being mindful of the time, I've also put in a note in the chat to give us a feedback to the session, so we could bring more relevant sessions to you and understand what your needs are and accordingly tailor our sessions for you. So do leave your feedback for us. Margaret, if you'd like to ask us that last question, if Frank's okay with it.
Yeah, one of the things that we've thought about for years, and we've actually given a space, but we didn't get to use it because of COVID, is a charity shop. And is that something that would be supported if we crowdfunded for that?
Absolutely, I think that's a great idea. I can send you. I'll just try and see if if I can find a really good example of a great charity shop that was crowdfunded down in West Sussex recently. Yes, I've got it here. I'll just put it in the chat. I think that would be a really good a really good project, Margaret, and yeah, happy to pick up the conversation with you about how we can develop that idea.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
A small reminder for everyone who's trying to get information that's on the chat. There are these 3 little dots. You can click on it and download the information, or I'm happy to send the chat to you along with the session notes. Frank, do send me your notes for the session. Are there any final questions for Frank before? Okay. Thank you so much, Frank, for joining us today and sharing all that information. It was really, really clear to me, and I'm sure to everyone else. And look forward to using this alternative source and exploring it even more to get our projects up, running, and out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.